So you're kind enough to bring in one of your custom shop Jacksons here. Do you mind maybe going through some specs and maybe some choices as to why you chose certain things and
yeah, man.
That?
So this is a B7 model. It's really, really similar to the stock ones.
Yep.
But there's a couple of key differences. So like, I guess the bones of the guitar are the same. When I've started playing Jackson a couple of years ago, the B7 was the model that had everything I needed in a guitar. Yep. So I started playing those, and like I said, the bones of the guitar haven't changed from that formula. So it's quarter sawn 1-piece maple neck, ebony fretboard, 27-inch scale baritone. Yep. And they're older bodied, and they also have like a maple carved top. Yep. It's probably about a 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little thicker than that. And that, and I'm not sure what string spacing they use, but it's fairly wide. And the neck's not super thin either. Like there's a bit of meat to it. Yep. Jumbo, 24 frets. So I kind of like started there, and first thing for me was the hip shot locking tuners. Yep. So they're the open gear ones, and they're a little bit lighter than most tuners. I think locking tuners like make string changes a lot easier. Sure. I kind of use them a little differently to most people. Like you can see I still wind the string around the peg. Yep. So that gives it more mechanical friction. Sure. So it doesn't slip quite as much. Yeah. But yeah, it just makes it quicker. I really like the humbucker single coil combination. Yep. And these are my signature bare knuckle pickups. The single coil unfortunately isn't publicly available as far as I know. Sure. But it's the impulse humbucker in the bridge and the impulse single coil in the neck. Yep. They're kind of like medium output, really flat sounding pickups that just kind of enhance the natural voice of the guitar, which is what I like. I've got it wired a little differently, so the stock B7s are totally different to this. I've got like the Damasio 3-way, and it's not like a normal 3-way toggle. It's like a multi-pole one, so you can muck around with the wiring. It's the same ones in like the John Petrucci Ernie balls. Yep, yep. So what it does is like when it's here in the middle position, I actually have the inner coil of the bridge blended with the neck, and it hum cancels. Yeah, right. Which is like, I don't use it heaps, but I'm usually just bridge on neck, but some venues will have like really noisy lighting circuits. Yeah. And I can't get away with a true single for like cleans when I'm using a compressor or stuff like that. Yeah. So it's handy to have that. And the two pots here are a neck volume and a bridge volume. Yep. And I can actually like adjust the blend of this position because I have two volume pots that are independent. Sure. Yeah. Which is cool. They're also the bare knuckle custom CTS pots. Yep. So the values are like a little higher than usual. So it's a 270 and a 550K. And it just sounds a little bit more open. Sure. It's kind of like the same difference between getting rid of your tone pot as well. It just kind of lifts the rug off the sound a bit. Yep. So it's a really like wide open sounding guitar with like a little bit extended highs and lows. Yeah. Which is cool. Biggest difference is the bridge. Yep. So I started using Evertunes ages ago, and then I stopped for a while. Yeah. Because I think the guitar that had the Evertune in it, I'm not sure if it was perfectly installed. Sure. I had a few problems with it. Yep. But I came back to them recently, and I've just been so happy with it. Yeah, right. Obviously, like I think any bridge has its pros and cons. Yeah. Like obviously with the Evertune, like the sustain isn't quite as good, and it definitely alters the tone slightly. Yeah. It's not quite as bright as a like the standard hardtail, which all my B7s came with stock.
Yeah.
But the stability and like intonation is so good.
Yeah.
And like I use pretty big strings, like that's an 80 on the bottom.
Yeah, right.
So when you use strings that big, intonation can be a problem, especially when it's an F.
Yeah.
So for some reason, like with the Evertune bridge, the intonation seems to improve over the whole guitar, but everything just sounds a bit sweeter when it's all like, you know, really well in tune, and makes recording a lot quicker as well, because you're not always double checking like where the guitar's sitting. Yeah, exactly. You know? There's one other thing this guitar has that's actually stock on the standard B7s, which is really, really good, is the strap locks on it are the Dunlop flush mount ones.
Yeah, that's mounted in there,
which are my absolute favourite.
Yeah.
I love them. I've never had one have an issue ever.
Yeah.
Can't say the same for anything else out there.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's a bit of surgery involved, and can be annoying for some people because like you can't just put any strap on it.
Yeah.
But as far as like security goes, like you can't beat it.
Yeah.
I really like using neck throughs. I don't think I mentioned that.
Yeah,
So I have a couple of these that are bolt-ons and a couple of neck throughs. And the bolt-on neck through debate's like, it's pretty, I don't know, people should just play whatever the hell they want, not what they think they should play. You know, just try stuff, see what you like.
Yeah.
I find that bolt-ons are definitely snappier sounding.
Yep.
And have like a more immediate attack to them. But like for what I do, I think the sustain I get from a neck through definitely works better for me.
Yeah. And
I know that some people debate whether or not that's a thing. It definitely is a thing.
Yeah.
Like, because like we were talking about in the car on the way over here, there's no like phase cancellation between the neck and the body because it's glued together, right? And that's why like one piece neck's better too, because there's less phase cancellation between woods that vibrate on different frequencies, so you get less dead spots and better sustain if it's a really good piece of timber. But yeah, I find like using big strings, like sustain can be an issue. And if you know, if you have a guitar that is built to sustain really well, it can kind of alleviate that a bit and just make everything sound really big and chunky, which is what I like. You know, I think it's good to have, you know, a mix of all kinds of different stuff. But for my go-to for like what I do with Northlane, it's definitely neck through baritones. Like, I love the way baritones sound and feel, and I just like big guitars, you know, with a bit of chunk to them, and neck throughs, man. It's my jam.
Yeah, sweet. Cool. Next up would be talking about the rig that you'd use live. Would saying it being quite extensive be a good word to describe it, or like it's just from photos and stuff? It's pretty
big.
Which is in no way bad, by the way.
I'm actually well, it can be. Like I'm in the process of like coming up with something a little more compact for like one-off fly-ins. When we don't have a big baggage allowance. But like in the main spots we go to, it's fine. We store a lot of stuff in Europe now, for example, so we don't take a full like load of everything.
Full production share.
Every time we go over there. So the kind of bones of the rig are the Kemper Profiler, and the pedal board I have is controlled by a RJM PBC. It has like true bypass loops in it and the ability to like do MIDI switching too.
Yeah.
So I have all of my pedals running through loops on that, and it also controls what they all do.
Yeah.
So everything is like MIDI based when it comes to my switching.
Yeah.
So I have the Strymon, Timeline, Mobius, and Big Sky.
Yeah.
That do all the work for my modulation and reverb.
Yeah.
And they're all like preset based and MIDI switch from the signals that the PBC sends to them.
Yeah.
And then it sends MIDI to the Kemper to switch the different amps on that.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then I've just got like 2 overdrives, a fuzz and a gate. Yeah. Among just other things I need to like make it work as best I can.
Sure.
So I have a Strymon El Capistan on there too.
Yeah, right.
Which is like a delay that I put in front of the amp rather than in the effect loop.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we need to have 2, and
sure.
That one's not MIDI synced for tempo either. It's tapped, so
yeah.
I can like do different stuff with it on the fly.
On the fly, yeah.
Which is like a little bit more challenging, but you know, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, right.
The drive pedals I have are a Seymour Duncan 805, which has been on this board ever since I rebuilt it. I've been using it for quite a long time now.
Yep.
And I run it on 18 volts.
Yeah.
I used to use that for pretty much all my boosting. Now I just use it for like boosting clean tones and low gain overdrive stuff. Just for a bit of grit, which is something we did a lot on our last record.
Yep. And
I also use it for some leads as well if I need them to cut a lot.
Yeah.
And anything that needs a bit of extra mid-range, I'll use that. The real star right now is this pedal I recently got called the J-Rocket Archer, which is based on the Klon circuit, and it is just absolutely mind-blowing. It is such a good pedal. I use it for all my high gain boosting now, and I just can't get enough of it. And I let John try it out on the weekend, and now he wants one too. Knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's sick though.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's very different to like a tube screamer type. I throw a lot more gain at it than I would with a tube screamer, which I never expected, but it seems to get tighter the more you turn the gain up.
Yeah, right.
Which is, I don't fully understand how those things work. They're just magic. Yeah. And I also have a Swollen Pickle fuzz, which is really cool. I got an Amorous Fuzz as well, which I was using, and I swapped that out for the pickle. So the pickle's like a little bit grittier and has more mids to it, so it would cut through. When I was using the Empress, I kind of changed that with the 805. Which is a bit noisy, but it sounded good. And then I just use like a decimator for a gate. I've got a Polytune Mini. Just a nice little compact thing, and I use that in the strobe mode. And a Shure GLXD wireless. Which is really cool because it's got rechargeable batteries that last for like 20 hours in it. And you can charge them with the unit itself. And I switch between that and the lead input with a radial, like I think it's called a Big Shot IO. It's like 2 inputs to an output and then an auxiliary output, and that sends to the PBC.
Well, I think that wraps it up. I want to thank Josh for coming to my house and saying yes to this and hanging out. It's probably maybe a little bit creepy for him to get a question like that, but but it's much
been fun.
Much appreciative, and we hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you soon.
Take care.